This is Divini's Library of Audiobooks, reading The 100,000 Songs of Milrepa, translated and annotated by Garma C.C. Chang. The 100,000 Songs of Milrepa. The life story and teaching of the greatest poet-saint ever to appear in the history of Buddhism. To the memory of my Guru, His Holiness Lama Kong Ka, to my wife Sang Sang, and to my brother in the Dharma, Peter Gruber, without whom the publication of this book would not have been possible. Forward. My first meeting with the translator of this book goes back to the year 1947. We met in Darjeeling, a resort town in the foothills of the Himalaya mountains. He had just come from Tibet, a distance which, though not far from Darjeeling, has yet to be measured in the number of days' travel by horses and yaks. Tibet was then a great mystery and source of curiosity to most people. The country was still closed off to foreigners, and only a few Europeans had been there. The barrier, however, was less stringent on the Chinese side. With this advantage, Mr. Chang had left China for Tibet in the late 1930s to search for Dharma and enlightenment. He traveled extensively in the calm region of Tibet and studied Buddhism in various monasteries for more than 8 years. His fascinating and inspiring adventures in this innermost part of Tibet are a matter for another book. Because of his long years of study and practice in Tibet, his personal devotion and commitment to Buddhism, and his first-hand experience of the lives of the Tibetan people, he is best qualified to translate this great Tibetan classic, The 100,000 Songs of Milarepa, which up to the present has not appeared in complete translation in any Western language. But what contribution has this book to make to a modern man with no time to read, who has already been swamped in a flood of books? To answer this question, some relevant facts should first be reviewed. If the average modern man is asked what he is living for and what is the aim of his striving, he will probably tell you with some embarrassment that he lives to enjoy life, to support his family, to have fun, to make money, or to achieve something meaningful and worthwhile. But in reality, we are all aware that no one seems to know exactly what he is living for. If he broods over the things surrounding him and the kind of world he is living in, he will soon become skeptical about the relevance of raising these questions. He cannot help but ask honestly, can we really know the right answers? Do we have any choice over these matters? And after all, what difference will it make? In spite of the unavoidable resignation and bewilderment that the modern man feels, sooner or later he finds himself compelled to choose between two alternatives. He can either turn to religion with blind faith and hope, or turn to the world and make the best of it. It is certain that men choose the former, not always because they are convinced of the truth of religion, but rather because doubt and despair have made their lives unbearable. On the other hand, they choose the latter, not because they have proved the untruth of religion, but because, in all likelihood, their spirits are deadened by pessimism and indifference. One fact, however, remains clear. In both cases, the choice is made under the coercion of pain, sorrow, or despair. It is common knowledge that an awareness of impending peril stirs men to act and to strive, that an awakening to man's limitations and helplessness in the face of the universe inspires him to pursue the beyond and the eternal. Thus both heaven and earth, nirvana and samsara, owe their births to human sufferings and despair. A thoughtful man must ask, is it really advantageous to lead a life without any suffering? Are not misfortune and grief prerequisites for spiritual awakening? From the ultimate viewpoint, are we, the sophisticated men of abundant knowledge and possessions, truly better off than the men of ignorance and scarcity of olden times? Let us think before we give an affirmative answer to these questions. Let us also ponder on some further ones. Is it not true that science and technology at their best can alleviate but not eliminate the sufferings of men? Can plastic surgery or the facelift really make a miserable old woman happy? Does it really matter whether or not we can defer our entrance into the grave for 10 or 15 years beyond schedule? Many ingenious devices have been invented to conceal the unpleasant facts of life, and many gadgets have been created to gratify men's insatiable desires. But in the final analysis, what else have these contrivances brought us, save their contributions to a fool's paradise for men to live in? Science, as some wise man has said, makes major contributions to minor needs. Religion, whether or not it comes up with anything, at least is at work on the things that are truly important. Deluded by material achievements and comforts, the majority of modern men are deprived of the opportunity and privileges of leading a rich spiritual life as their forefathers once did. In reading just a few stories of this great Tibetan classic, the 100,000 Songs of Milrepa, we can readily find evidence that it was immeasurably easier for the backward Tibetans to contact the spiritual verities and to lead devotional lives than for their more advanced contemporaries. The reason for this is apparent. They had much simpler minds and they led much simpler lives. Being closer to the sheer facts of life, uncloaked by camouflage and disguises, they had more opportunity to observe its sufferings and transiency, and in closer contact with gurus and saints, they could draw more inspiration from them as witnesses of the concrete results and rewards of a devotional life. But the majority of modern men are deprived of these privileges, for they are living in a civilization which a keen observer has wisely defined as one vast conspiracy against the spiritual life. And so the wave of karma keeps on rolling, and no one is swept along by it, regardless of his unwillingness and dismay. No one is foolish enough to think that the world will reverse itself and return to the good old days. What is gone is gone. All one can do, perhaps, is to make use of the best that the past has bequeathed us, and apply it to the future and to the here and now. Any person, message, or action that may spark a spiritual inspiration for men who must live in this age of spiritual undernourishment should therefore be of great value to all concerned, because they are what we need most, and what so rarely appear in our time. With this view in mind, Mr. Chang has spent many years in preparing the English translation of this great spiritual classic of Tibet, the Milarepa, or the 100,000 Songs of Milrepa, in the hope of making it available to the people of the West. What kind of a book is the Milarepa? An adequate answer to this question is extremely difficult to make. Beyond doubt, it is one of the greatest religious classics, ranking with the Mahabharata, the Avattama Sutra, the Old and New Testaments, and the like. But at the same time, it is far more, a different kind of book in its own right, and no real parallel can be found in the literary field. Because of its unique style, unusual setting, and comprehensive content, the Milarepa is a book hard to introduce and to appraise in the ordinary sense. Therefore, the best answer to the question, what kind of book is the Milarepa, should be given by the individual reader himself, though his own understanding and appreciation. I can perhaps speak now for myself as to why, among the many great religious classics, the Milarepa is a personal favorite. To name just a few, I may say first of all that I found this book to be an inexhaustible fountainhead of inspiration, an immense treasury of spiritual teachings, a repository of yogic instructions, a guide on the Bodhi path, and above all, an unfailing friend of the sincere devotee. Secondly, it provides inside information on the religious life of the Tibetan people, laymen, yogis, and monks alike, presenting a vivid picture of their spiritual problems, strivings, and accomplishments. In this book, the profoundest ideas and teachings of Buddhism are revealed in 61 fascinating stories presented in simple language. The reading, therefore, is extremely pleasant and interesting. Since each story is an account of Milarepa's personal experience in a specific situation, the messages and instructions given therein carry inherently an unusual persuasive power and charm which truly move one to greater conviction, wider consolation, and deeper insight. In addition, the Grubam contains clear descriptions and unequivocal evaluations of critical yogic experiences, including those of the most advanced stages, hitherto unrevealed in other scriptures. If to evaluate the Mila Grubam is difficult, to praise it is even more so. Words, after all, may not be so good a means of praise for a book of this kind. My sincere hope is that the readers may share with me, in silence and joy, a most rewarding experience in reading this beloved book of Tibet, as millions of Tibetans once did in the recent past and long ago. Peter Gruber, Oriental Studies Foundation, New York, September 1962. A word from the translator. My commentary, to be found in the appendix under the title of 100,000 Songs of Milarepa, its origin, background, function, and translation, was originally designed to serve as an introduction to this book, but in order to encourage the general reader's direct contact with the text itself, I have transferred my comments to the appendix, together with other material of particular interest to serious students and scholars. For them, it is strongly recommended that this commentary be read first. For readers who are not acquainted with the Tibetan literature, the actual sequence of the stories may not be the best way in which to read them. They follow each other in an interconnection which will be apparent enough to persons familiar with Tibetan literature, but the sequence may be more difficult to new readers. For them, I have starred certain representative stories in the table of contents and recommend that they be read first. These will provide a cross-section of the three parts into which the text is divided. Part 1, stories concerned principally with Milarepa's subjugation and conversion of demons. Part 2, Milarepa's relationships with and instructions to his human disciples. And Part 3, miscellaneous stories that fall into no specific category. The stories in this book cover a wide range of spiritual problems and their solutions in the light of Buddhist doctrine and of mystic and yogic experiences. For information on Milarepa's life and the central teaching of Tibetan Tantrism, please see my commentary in the appendix. Tibetan terms in the explanatory notes are enclosed in parentheses and preceded by the letters TT, denoting that these are Tibetan transcriptions as rendered in the English alphabet. I wish to express my sincerest gratitude to the Bollingen Foundation for its generous grant, which made possible the completion of this work, to Ms. Dorothy C. Donas and Mr. Gerald York for their most helpful editorial suggestions, and assistance to Miss Tony Schmid of the Statens Ethnografiska Museum, Stockholm, Sweden, for her kind permission to use an illustration from her beautiful book, The Cotton-Clad Mila, as our frontispiece, to Dr. W.Y. Evan Wentz, Miss Natasha Rambova, Mr. Peter Gruber, and Miss Gwendolyn Windsor for their constant encouragement and aid, and to my wife, Chang for the typing of the entire manuscript and for her unfailing help and interest throughout the translation of the book. Garma C.C. Chang. Contents, Volume 1. Forward, 9. A word from the translator. Part 1. Milarepa's subjugation and conversion of demons. Stories. 1. The Tale of Red Rock, Jewel Valley. 2. The Journey to Lashi. 3. The Song of the Snow Ranges. 4. Challenge from a Wise Demoness. 5. Milarepa in Ragma. 6. Milarepa at Junpan Nanka Song. 7. The Song of a Yogi's Joy. 8. Milarepa and the Pigeon. Part 2. Milarepa and his human disciples. Stories. 9. The Grey Rock Vajra Enclosure. 10. Milarepa's first meeting with Rechungpa. 11. Admonishment on the rare opportunity of practicing the Dharma. 12. The Shepherd's Search for Mind. 13. The Song of Realization. 14. A Woman's Role in the Dharma. 15. The Song at the End. 16. The Bandit Disciple. 17. The Meeting at Silver Spring. 18. The Song of the Staff. 19. The 21 Exhortations. 20. Milarepa's meeting with Kar Chan Ripa. 21. Admonishment to Dharma Wanshu. 22. The Miracle Contest on D.C. Snow Mountain. 23. The Enlightenment of Rechungpa. 24. The conversion of a dying Buddhist. 25. Challenge from a clever maiden. 26. The huntsman and the deer. 27. The invitation from the king of Nepal. 28. The goddess Tsurinma's attack. 29. The conversion of the goddess Tsurinma. 30. Guiding instructions on the bardo. Volume 2. 31. Tsurinma and the mudra practice. 32. Admonishment to Repa Dore Wanshu. 33. Milrepa's meeting with Dharma Bodhi. 34. The challenge from the logicians. 35. Rachungpa's third journey to India. 36. The realization of Milrepa. 37. Saul Oi and her understanding. 38. The story of the yak horn. 39. Rachungpa's repentance. 40. The song of how to gain happiness and avoid suffering. 41. The holy Gambopa, Milrepa's foremost disciple. 42. The conversion of the scholar Lodun. 43. Song of the Eight Wondrous Joys. 44. Milrepa converts the unbelievers through miracles. Part 3. Miscellaneous stories. Stories. 45. Various short tales. 46. The preaching on Mount Bonbo. 47. The miracle of the vase initiation. 48. The story of Shindormo and Lesbom. 49. Milarepa and the dying sheep. 50. The beer drinking songs. 51. Heartfelt advice to Rachungpa. 52. Rachungpa's journey to the Wu. 53. The meeting with the Dampa Sangye. 54. The salvation of the dead. 55. Fulfillment of the Dakini's prophecy. 56. Admonishments to physician Tong Nye. 57. Rachungpa's departure. 58. The story of Drashi C. 59. The song of good companions. 60. The evidence of accomplishment. 61. The miracles and the last admonishment colophon. Appendix: The 100,000 Songs of Milrepa, its origin, background, function, and translation. Glossary: Table of Tibetan words. Index: It is recommended that these stories be read first. See A Word from the Translator, Part 13. That ends the introduction to this book, The 100,000 Songs of Milrepa. Thank you.